GOP Congressman Steve Scalise joins us, House Minority Whip. Congressman, always good to see you. I know Louisiana has been slammed. I just like to talk politics if we can for a second, because if you look at from Oakland to Kenosha to Washington, D.C. last night, riots are everywhere. They're not protests, they're riots. 5 cops got hurt. And here's what the president's saying about all this, because suddenly it seems Democrats and Joe Biden seem to see a difference between protests and riots. He says, when is slow Joe Biden going to criticize the anarchists, thugs, and agitators in Antifa? When is he going to suggest bringing up the National Guard in badly run and crime-infested Democratic cities and states? Remember, he can't lose the crazy Bernie super liberal vote. Remember, Jerry Nadler said it's a made-up Antifa's a made-up Washington thing.
Yeah, how concerning is this? I mean, look, President Trump's been very clear from the beginning that you can peacefully protest, but you can't go and burn down buildings and attack police officers. And yet Joe Biden continues to denounce President Trump on things like bringing in the National Guard and won't stand up to Antifa. This is a serious concern in every city across the country that people have. And for whatever reason, Joe Biden won't stand up against it, but President Trump has. And President Trump's going to protect people in their communities. These mayors that are letting their cities get out of control, it's unbelievable that they're okay with the mobs. They're angry about President Trump coming into the city to try to bring some kind of civility, but then they'll literally sit by and watch as their cities are being burned down. In some cases, it's unbelievable.
Sure, Congressman Scalise, I know that a number of Republicans have said, and Joe Biden says he would defund the police. That was after he did an interview with somebody who was asking him some questions about police brutality and funding of the police and things like that. This is the exact quote from the original interview with Joe Biden on July the 11th from Now This. Watch.
There's a whole range of things that we can do. The idea of no-knock warrants for drug cases is bizarre. We don't need that. It just invites trouble. There's a need for fundamental change in us being able to have transparency, be able to have access to the records of police when they have misconduct charges against them. My generic point is that...
Do we agree that we can redirect some of the funding?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so you're taking some heat over the weekend from Twitter because you took the last part of that, but you added from earlier in the interview the police and put it right in there, and you were accused of manipulating a video. What do you have to say about that?
Well, look, it shouldn't have been edited, but at the same time, the comments were always about, in fact, twice in that interview, he asked Joe Biden if he was for redirecting money away from police. And in both times, Joe Biden said yes. And you saw that last response. Joe was excited about saying yes, that he would redirect money away from police. So, look, we sent out the video again, the full video, in fact, if anybody wants to see it with that full interview. But again, multiple times Joe Biden has asked if he supports redirecting money away from police. And Joe Biden says yes. Redirecting and defunding the police are the same thing. If you're a police officer and they're redirecting money away from you, doesn't matter where else it's going. It's going to make it harder for those police officers to do their job safely and to keep those communities safe. And so this is a serious issue in this campaign. And Joe Biden, for whatever reason, has taken that position that he's okay with redirecting money away from police. And look at what's going on in some of these cities. They need maybe stronger law enforcement presence. Surely they don't need a weaker law enforcement presence.
Congressman, we'd love to get your thoughts as well on the White House Chief of Staff blasting Pelosi for rejecting the GOP's $1.3 trillion COVID-19 stimulus plan over what he calls Pelosi's fantasy. It was on Meet the Press. Take a listen.
I had a conversation with Speaker Pelosi, and even on her $2.2 trillion counteroffer, she can't tell the American people nor me what is in that. She puts forth a number, suggests that she came down, and yet she's willing to turn down $1.3 trillion of help that goes to the American people because she would rather them have nothing than to give way on what her fantasy objection might be.
What are your thoughts on that and what is going on behind the scenes and what undoubtedly can only be your level of exhaustion at the inability for these two parties to get together?
Yeah, look, President Trump's made multiple attempts to negotiate. In fact, Mark Meadows was down at the Capitol a week and a half ago when Speaker Pelosi brought us in on a Saturday not to help those families or those small businesses, but to give another $25 billion to the post office at a time when they said they couldn't even spend the $25 billion they already had in the bank and access to a loan. So Speaker Pelosi didn't want to renegotiate to try to help those families or small businesses. We were all there that day, and there wasn't a single bill she brought to the floor to impede the impasse. And so President Trump said, OK, I'm going to go help those families anyway. And he is. But, you know, it's a shame that you don't see the speaker engaged in a serious negotiation. She wants to bail out failed states like New York and California. Clearly, there's no support on our side for that. But at the same time, helping families and small businesses, President's always been there. Mark Meadows' chief has always been there, and she won't negotiate on this. So, you know, this idea of just, hey, give me $2 trillion, $3 trillion, for goodness sake, I mean, where's this money coming from? China is going to be we're going to be borrowing this from China. She continues to support China. She won't confront China, by the way, on the House floor. We ought to be doing that.
But, Congressman, there's people are really hurting out there, and to continue some of these programs that have been effective would be in the best interest of the American people. So what are you doing to give people hope that something could get done? Oh, is that it, that half-hour conversation between Meadows and Pelosi? Is that all we're going to have? Is anything else on the docket?
Well, they've continued to try to negotiate, but in the meantime, what President Trump did is take action. He actually said, we're going to put up an extra $300 a week for people who are unemployed due to this crisis. He did that on his own through a different mechanism with FEMA. But at the same time, you know, the ability's always been there to negotiate a bigger package, a larger agreement. The speakers, for whatever reason, said kind of my way, the highway approach. And like I said, we're not going to go and change voting laws to undermine states' ability to run a safe and integrated election. I mean, we've got to make sure that this idea of mailing ballots to everybody on the rolls, legally or illegally, is a crazy idea. And that's something the speaker has tried to do in the past relief packages. Luckily, we kept that out. Why don't we focus on helping families and small businesses? Unfortunately, that's not where they are.
Okay, you're talking about helping small businesses and families with regard to COVID and how they've been impacted. But down in your home state, you were talking about FEMA a moment ago. FEMA is there in Louisiana after Hurricane Laura ripped through with devastating winds, came ashore with 140-mile-per-hour winds. I want to play a soundbite for you, Congressman, of a bridal store owner talking about the challenges she faces and so many others do in your home state. Watch this.
What we see now is the worst disaster that I think Louisiana has ever seen. They're telling us it could be up to 4 weeks without water. We have no water. We have no electricity. There's no N95 masks for people to get into their homes to try to save anything that's left. People are scared to evacuate because of Corona. They don't have money. Because of Corona, they don't have the funds to be able to get out of here. I really need to plead with our community and with our nation. People don't realize how bad it is here. 1 out of every 5 people I know have nothing. They have nothing.
That just breaks your heart. What is Congress going to do?
Yeah, it's really devastating down there. In fact, I went and did an aerial tour last week and then was with President Trump on Saturday. With our local delegation. Clay Higgins represents that area in Congress, and our Senator John Kennedy. So, you know, the president made it clear we're going to have all the help we need to rebuild. Right now, they're working with the mayor on the water supply. The entire water system was knocked down. The power is out because so many lines were knocked down, and substations. Look, this was a strong Category 4 when it hit ground, so over 150-mile-an-hour winds in most of these places. So you have tremendous damage that was done. President Trump came Saturday and said, we're going to do everything we can at the federal help level to make sure people have help that they need to get these communities rebuilt. And, you know, in some places it's going to take time. Clearly, we've seen this before, unfortunately, but people are pulling together. Yet the Cajun Navy on the ground there working with United Way and local faith-based organizations to help families as well. So everybody's pitching in. And you're going to see a all hands on deck effort from the federal level on down to the local level to help people get back, rebuild their lives.
Steve Scalise, House Minority Whip, our thoughts and prayers are with you and the great state of Louisiana as you guys get back on your feet. Thank you for joining us.